Well, folks, it seems the luck of the Irish has taken an unexpected turn. The picturesque landscapes and bustling streets of Ireland hide a growing concern that has caught the attention of many, including some unexpected voices from across the pond. President Donald Trump, a man who knows a thing or two about real estate, recently offered his 2 cents on Ireland's housing crisis. Known for his bold statements and unfiltered opinions, Trump didn't hold back when discussing the Emerald Isle's predicament. And let me tell you, it was a doozy. His comments left many scratching their heads and others outright baffled. During a meeting with Irish Taoiseach Michael Martin, Trump, in his infinite wisdom, declared the crisis a good problem to have. Yes, you heard that right, a good problem, because, nothing says thriving economy like thousands of your citizens struggling to find affordable housing. Trump's reasoning? Ireland's doing too well. The demand for housing is a sign of prosperity, he claims. The economy is booming, people are flocking to the Emerald Isle, and apparently no one can build houses fast enough to keep up. Construction sites are popping up everywhere, but it's still not enough. Never mind the fact that Ireland has been grappling with a housing crisis for years, long before the current economic upswing. The issue is deeply rooted and complex, involving factors like government policies, market dynamics, and social challenges. But hey, who needs facts when you've got Trump's signature brand of off-the-cuff analysis? His comments have sparked a mix of reactions, from amusement to frustration, highlighting the ongoing debate about how to best address the housing crisis in Ireland. As the Irish government continues to grapple with this issue, the international spotlight, including Trump's unexpected commentary, adds another layer of complexity. The hope is that this attention will lead to meaningful discussions and ultimately solutions that can help those in need of affordable housing. After all, at the heart of this crisis are real people, families and communities striving for a better future. The road ahead may be challenging, but with collective effort and thoughtful policies, there's hope for a brighter, more stable housing landscape in Ireland. Now you might think that the leader of a country facing such a dire housing situation would push back on such a glib assessment. But you'd be wrong. Because in a moment that will surely live in Irish political infamy, Michael Martin actually agreed with Trump. Good answer, the Taoiseach chimed in, seemingly unfazed by the absurdity of it all. One can only imagine the collective gasp that reverberated across Ireland at that moment. It was as if the entire country had been simultaneously slapped in the face with a wet shamrock. Naturally, the backlash was swift and fierce. Opposition politicians, housing advocates, and even the family dog lined up to condemn Martin's response, accusing him of being utterly out of touch with the struggles of ordinary Irish people. Leading the charge was Labour Party housing spokesperson Conor Sheehan, who didn't mince words in his criticism. Outrageous, he declared, pointing out the obvious, that the government's own policies have played a significant role in fueling the crisis. Sinn Féin's Eoin O'Brien also weighed in, accusing Martin of essentially joking about the plight of thousands of people living in emergency accommodation, stuck on endless waiting lists, or forced to emigrate in search of affordable housing. And the thing is, they're not wrong. This isn't just a matter of political point scoring, this is about real people's lives being profoundly affected by a crisis that shows no signs of abating. But, hey, at least Trump thinks it's a good problem to have, right? Because let's be clear, the situation in Ireland is dire. The housing crisis has reached unprecedented levels, affecting thousands of families and individuals across the country. It's not just a statistic, it's a harsh reality for many. The numbers paint a bleak picture: record numbers of people languishing in emergency accommodation. These shelters are overflowing, unable to keep up with the demand. Families are being torn apart, children are growing up without a stable home, and the elderly are left vulnerable. Planning permissions for new apartments plummeting, with many construction projects halted or abandoned. This stagnation in the housing market is exacerbating the crisis, leaving many without hope for a permanent solution. And rents continuing to skyrocket, making it nearly impossible for average families to afford decent housing. The rental market is becoming increasingly competitive, pushing prices to unsustainable levels. According to the latest figures, over 15,000 people are currently living in emergency accommodation. This includes families with young children, single parents, and even working professionals who simply can't make ends meet. That's 15,000 individuals and families crammed into overcrowded hostels, hotels, and temporary housing facilities. These places are often cramped, lacking privacy, and far from ideal living conditions. Meanwhile, planning permissions for new apartments have fallen off a cliff, with developers hesitant to invest in new projects due to economic uncertainties and bureaucratic hurdles, down a staggering 39% in the past year alone. This decline is a significant blow to the housing sector, further limiting the availability of new homes. It's almost as if the government is actively trying to make the crisis worse. Despite numerous promises and plans, the situation continues to deteriorate, leaving many to question the effectiveness of current policies. And let's not forget about the sky-high rents, which are pushing more and more people to the brink of homelessness. The cost of living is rising and wages are not keeping pace, creating a perfect storm of financial instability, which continue to eat away at people's incomes, leaving them with little left over for, the basic necessities of life. Food, healthcare, education, all these essential needs are being sacrificed just to keep a roof over their heads. The housing crisis in Ireland is not just a problem for those directly affected, it's a societal issue that demands urgent attention and action. We need comprehensive solutions that address the root causes and provide sustainable long-term relief for everyone involved. Section 5, Beyond the Soundbites, a deeper look at Ireland's housing woes. But the housing crisis is about more than just numbers. It's about the human cost, the toll it takes on individuals, families, and communities. It's about the young couple forced to put their dreams of homeownership on hold indefinitely because they can't even fathom saving for a deposit. It's about the single parent working 2 jobs just to keep a roof over their children's heads, constantly worried about being priced out of their neighborhood. It's about the elderly woman living in fear of eviction because her landlord wants to cash in on the booming rental market. These are the stories that often get lost in the political back and forth, the human faces behind the cold, hard statistics. Section 6. The Teflon Taoiseach? Martin's Teflon coating might be wearing thin. As for Michael Martin, well, his response to the housing crisis has been, shall we say, underwhelming. He talks a good game, spouting platitudes about the need for more affordable housing and promising to tackle the issue head-on. But when it comes to actually delivering, he's been all talk and no action. It's almost as if he's hoping the crisis will magically solve itself if he just ignores it long enough. But the people of Ireland are starting to see through the empty promises. They're tired of the excuses, tired of the inaction, and tired of being told to just wait a little longer while the crisis continues to spiral out of control. Section 7. The Global Stage U.S.-Irish Relations Under the Microscope. Now you might be thinking, what does all of this have to do with U.S.-Irish relations? It's a fair question, and one that deserves a thorough exploration. The relationship between the United States and Ireland has always been multifaceted, influenced by historical ties, economic exchanges, and shared cultural values. But in recent years, new challenges have emerged that put this relationship under the microscope. And it's a fair question, after all, we're talking about a domestic policy issue in a country thousands of miles away. But here's the thing, Ireland's housing crisis is a microcosm of a much larger global problem. This isn't just about bricks and mortar, it's about the very fabric of society and how nations interact on the global stage. From San Francisco to Sydney, from London to Toronto, cities around the world are grappling with the same issue, a severe shortage of affordable housing. This crisis is not just a local issue, it's a global phenomenon that affects millions of people. And as the crisis deepens, it's only a matter of time before it starts to have a real impact on international relations. When countries are struggling to house their own citizens, it's only natural that they'll be less inclined to welcome newcomers, whether they're refugees fleeing war and persecution, or highly skilled workers looking for a better life. Because when countries are struggling to house their own citizens, it's only natural that they'll be less inclined to welcome newcomers, whether they're refugees fleeing war and persecution or highly skilled workers looking for a better life. This reluctance can strain diplomatic ties and create tensions between nations. Moreover, the housing crisis can lead to social unrest, which in turn can affect political stability and economic growth. As countries grapple with these challenges, the need for international cooperation becomes more evident. It's a complex issue that requires a multifaceted approach, involving not just governments but also private sector and civil society. Only through collective effort can we hope to address the root causes of the housing crisis and build a more stable and prosperous future for all. Gap 3S Section 8, The Stark Reality, CSO Data on Homelessness in Ireland. As we delve deeper into the housing crisis, it's crucial to understand the stark reality captured by the Central Statistics Office, CSO. According to the Census of Population 2022, homelessness in Ireland has reached alarming levels. The data reveals that over 10,000 people are currently without a permanent home, including more than 3,000 children. Gap 2S. The statistics also show a worrying trend, a 20% increase in homelessness over the past 5 years. This surge is not confined to urban areas. Rural regions are also seeing a rise in individuals and families without stable housing. The CSO data highlights that single-parent households and young adults are among the most affected, struggling to find affordable accommodation. Gap 2S. It's not just about numbers. These figures represent real lives disrupted, dreams deferred, and futures put on hold. The CSO report also underscores the link between rising housing costs and homelessness. As rental prices continue to soar, more people find themselves unable to keep up, leading to evictions and an increase in emergency accommodation usage. Gap 2S. These insights from the Census of Population 2022 paint a grim picture, but they also serve as a call to action. Policymakers, community leaders, and citizens alike must come together to address this crisis, because behind every statistic is a story, and every story matters. Gap 2S. As we reflect on these sobering numbers, it's clear that Ireland's housing crisis is not just a challenge, but a pressing issue that demands immediate and sustained attention. The road to a solution is long and complex, but understanding the data is the first step in making meaningful change. Section 8, From Shamrocks to Shelters, St. Patrick's Day with a Twist. So, as the world gears up to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, let's not forget about the real Ireland, the one grappling with a housing crisis of epic proportions. Let's raise a glass to the resilience of the Irish people, but let's also demand better from their leaders. Because everyone deserves a safe, affordable place to call home, and telling people it's a good problem to have just doesn't cut it. Section 9, The Last Laugh. What's next for Irish housing? So, what's next for Ireland's housing market? Will the government finally get its act together and implement meaningful solutions? Or will the crisis continue to worsen, driving more people into homelessness and forcing even more young people to emigrate? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, the world is watching, and the Irish people deserve better. Section 9, The Last Laugh. What's next for Irish housing? So, what's next for Ireland's housing market? Will the government finally get its act together and implement meaningful solutions? Or will the crisis continue to worsen, driving more people into homelessness and forcing even more young people to emigrate? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, the world is watching, and the Irish people deserve better.